We are pleased to welcome Dr. Richard Muller, a professor of physics at the University of California at Berkeley, and something of a contrarian often on matters of science and current events. His mission is to help explain current events with the help of the physical sciences. He is a MacArthur Genius Fellow. He was most recently number 10 on Foreign Policy's Top 100 Global Thinkers. He is the author of Physics for Future Presidents, and perhaps most impressively, he is a senior fellow in energy and climate here at the Future 500. You have one of the most interesting pedigrees among scientists. You have been a skeptic on climate change, and yet you have concluded that global warming is real and human-caused. So, based on the conclusions that you've come to, what should we be focused on now to respond to issues of climate?
The key finding was that over the past 250 years, the temperature has not been affected by solar variability in any way that we can detect. That's a real surprise. If we look at what's left over, we see that there's sudden dips in the temperature, and those match very well the known explosive volcanic events. But they only last a few years. There's also a trend. The temperature rises gradually through time, goes a little bit faster and faster. We looked at this and we tried to see if this fits a simple mathematical function. It doesn't really fit very well. We tried exponentials, we tried polynomials. But when we tried matching it to the known carbon dioxide increase, it was dead on. This is a strong case that the cause of this trend over the last 250 years has been caused by carbon dioxide, which we know came from human burning, first of wood and then fossil fuels.
We just heard reports today that China's leading solar panel company has gone bankrupt. And one of the reasons they've attributed that to is low-priced natural gas. What is the role of renewables in drawing us toward a more sustainable energy economy?
In any discussion of bridging, if the word China isn't mentioned, then it's not a serious discussion. In the United States, we could cut what we're emitting drastically simply by spending money, and we can afford to do that. But it doesn't set an example that the developing world can follow. So when people say it doesn't matter whether the renewables are more expensive, we've just got to do it, that's not a solution. It's a feel-good measure. It means that when the global warming comes, we in the United States will sit back and say, well, we did our part, and it's not my fault. But that's not problem solving. If we're going to stop it, it has to be something that the developing world can afford. And the problem right now is that solar and wind, including the infrastructure, including the energy storage, all of these things, simply is still too expensive. Now, solar in particular, the price is dropping very rapidly. I believe solar has a better chance in China than it has in the United States, because pretty soon the solar cells are going to be so cheap that that's not going to be the big cost. The big cost will be maintenance. Will be dusting off the solar cells and so on. And they have an advantage there because they're, quite frankly, their salary structure is lower than ours. And so it will become more economically attractive over there. So I think there's a great opportunity for solar to develop in China. More so than in the United States. We should encourage the development of solar in China. I'm all in favor of that.
Them make the investment dollars.
But they cannot afford to subsidize solar as long as they have other issues having to do with their poverty, the health, the education of their own people.
But politics can be confusing, and isn't it important to simplify some of these issues and to attribute some of these extreme weather events to climate change simply so that people are concerned about the issue and they notice the issue and that they take action?
That approach, I think, invites a backlash. It has a short-term benefit in getting people concerned about global warming, but eventually science and objectivity, I think, win out. When people learn that these things are not connected, they feel like they've been fooled. I've had people come up to me after I've given a talk and explain that the polar bears are not dying due to global warming. They may in the future, but it hasn't happened yet. And I've had them come up to me and said, but that's why I became an activist. What do you mean? How can this be? I think that kind of disillusionment is now causing a backlash in the United States, and I believe that part of the reason why the U.S. public is becoming less concerned about global warming is that they recognize that they were exaggerated to in the past. People don't like learning that they've been fooled.
Corporations, major brands, face a very tough climate on this issue right now. On the one hand, at least 20 major environmental groups, the Sierra Club, NRDC, Forest Ethics, Rainforest Action Network, and others are demanding that U.S. brands take a position, take a stand on climate, and take action operationally and on policy to do something about the problem. On the other hand, government affairs folks within these companies are very reluctant to take a position. So you have the companies split right now, with many within the companies wanting to take action to protect their brands, to protect climate, but others saying this is not safe politically, this is a litmus test issue on the right, and we can't be seen to be advocating protection of climate, particularly in policy. What do you say to those companies? Is there a place for them to go on this issue that is both scientifically reasonable and socially responsible?
I would recommend that they seek refuge in objectivity. The fact is, many of the things that people are asking them to do, whether it's put up big solar panels, become zero energy companies, and so on, in my mind, these things are, hey, they're not bad things to do, but they don't set an example that will stop global warming. One of the reasons we're working with Future 500 at Berkeley Earth is because of the examples you have set in working with these companies to do things that can really make a difference. If these companies, for example, were to make a pledge that they will import goods from the developing world only if those goods were produced with relatively clean energy, let's say natural gas instead of coal, or at least help the countries such as China move in that direction, encourage them to do it by working in this way, that's really effective. That's far more effective than saving a little bit of energy at big expense here in the United States. Keep in mind that if the U.S. goes to zero in 4 years, we're back where we started just from the growth of China alone, and it's quicker than that if we include India and Indonesia and the other countries that are growing so rapidly. So let's focus in on things that really can work. And then I think if the companies were to do this, the environmental groups certainly should agree. With this kind of objectivity, I think we can cut through all of the political show and do something that's really effective.
So you're suggesting that objectivity would be a way out of the political bind of being caught between the apparent left and right, caught between activists and conservatives.
I find it works for Berkeley Earth, that people are always attacking us, and by the time they talk to me or Elizabeth, they're very confused because we're saying things that are on both sides. But what they can sense in that is that we may say global warming is real and caused by humans, but fossil fuels are absolutely essential, and let me show you the numbers. They sense an objectivity, that we're not driven by politics, and I think if you seek objectivity as your refuge, you can get through the politics.